Hello everyone, my name is Emma Eugene Ji. Welcome to my research presentation titled Bridging the Gap Between Sustainable Design Education and Application. There are 5 sections that I will go through in today's presentation, beginning with introduction and followed by literature review, methodology, and results. Finally, I will end with discussion of findings. So to begin, let's take a look at the problem statement, research purpose, significance and objective of this study, and research questions. We live in a world where life is sustained based on the natural resources that are available in its surrounding and the climate that supports it. Also, climate change can be more dangerous and significant for the sustainability of natural resources than any other problems in the world. Now, sustainability is recognized as a good solution, and many colleges and universities have adopted the concept of sustainability into their curriculum. Still, while the learning components of sustainable principles have been relatively addressed, the application of sustainability design principles remains to be addressed. So, the purpose of this study is to understand how much sustainable design principles are taught in interior design programs, determine how much sustainable design principles the student, faculty, and professional groups apply to their project solution, daily lives, and water and energy conservation activities. Analyze the relationship between the learning and applied knowledge of sustainability, and investigate the relationship between pro-environmental behaviors and psychological aspects. The significance of the study is that professional organizations as well as higher education institutions and accreditation bodies are moving forward towards increasing the awareness and implementation of sustainability principles. Therefore, it is critical to bridge the gap between education and industry, between learning and application of sustainability principles. While tremendous efforts have been dedicated to the exposition and learning of sustainability principles, the gap between learning and application of sustainability principles remains unexplored. Therefore, the objective of this study is to provide the entry into the research gap between learning and application of sustainability principles. In order to research the symbiosis between learning and application of sustainability principles, the following questions will be addressed. What is the frequency of teaching sustainability principles in design schools? What is the content of sustainability principles taught in design schools? What is the relationship between students' learning and application of sustainability principles? How much training or qualifications do faculty receive on sustainability principles? How do design practitioners value students' preparation relative to sustainability principles? And finally, what is the relationship between pro-environmental behavior and psychological aspects? Okay, now that we have gone through the introduction, let's take a look at the literature review. This section will briefly cover sustainable development, LEED, environmental education in higher education, overview of the history of sustainability, pro-environmental behaviors, and determinants of pro-environmental behaviors. Sustainable development is a concept that is focused on sustaining any of the resources that are growing or expanding. It is more of a societal development based on the integration of economic, environmental, and social factors. Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, also known as LEED, was established by the United States Green Building Council It is a rating system for buildings that acknowledge projects that incorporate environmentally beneficial aspects to the design. Decade of Education for Sustainable Development was declared by United Nations in 2005 to connect the gap between sustainability and education. The United States also has several organizations which emphasize the sustainability in education. Understanding the sustainable principles of the environment, the economy, and social system is essential to learn how to make changes in order to produce students that value sustainability, such that they become effective stewards of natural resources and the environment. According to Iram and Trapp, the major goals of environmental education are acquisition of responsible environmental behavior and active citizen participation. The definition of pro-environmental behavior is a behavior that consciously seeks to minimize the negative impact of one's actions on the natural and built world. Among many pro-environmental activities, recycling, water conservation, and energy conservation activities were asked and tested in this research. In order to understand how pro-environmental behavior can be promoted or inversely inhibited, the psychological aspects of pro-environmental behavior needs to be considered. In this research, knowledge, environmental attitudes, and motivations were taken into consideration. Along with knowledge, environmental attitudes, and motivations, environmental concern also plays an important role on determinants of pro-environmental behaviors. In this research, Schwartz altruism, personal norms, new environmental paradigm, and social demographics were studied. Qualitative research and quantitative research were used as the methodology for this research. Qualitative research was used to understand how students, faculty, and professional practitioners think and perceive the concept of sustainability using focus group discussion. Participants discussed the importance of sustainability education in interior design, how much the concept of sustainability is taught in interior design program, and the gap between acquisition and application of sustainability. Focus group participants were composed of 4 senior students, 4 faculty members, and 5 professionals. A questionnaire was developed for this research to survey how the 3 different groups perceive sustainable education in college, pro-environmental behaviors, and symbiosis between learning and application. The sampling of students and faculty was from 13 CETA accredited colleges and universities in the state of Texas. The sampling of professionals in interior design was IIDA and ASID members of the Texas chapter. The questionnaire was developed based on the literature review and focus group discussion using SPSS. Because triangulation strengthens a study by combining methods, I used the focus group study and questionnaires for my research to improve validity. Now to the results. Let's take a look at some of the details of the focus group discussion. The role of lead in terms of creativity in design. Sustainable designers should make the design process to be more prescriptive, even with new design rules such as LEED, and think new innovative ways and design parameters. Teaching sustainability at school, as it is with any field that requires continuous education, each succeeding procession in the education process should take students, faculty, and even professionals to be more knowledgeable in the field. the perception on the topic of climate change. The participants all concurred that they have seen changes in the climate compared to a few years ago, but also agreed that there were no concrete information if human activities are the causes of the climate change. Application of sustainability. It is easier to design green projects than to lead green lives. Transition from learning to application. One of the major issues that the participants pointed out was that people are not likely to support something that they don't understand, thus highlighting the importance of sustainable design education. Now to the questionnaire. 67% of students took sustainable class in interior design program. 54% of them took the sustainable class during their sophomore year. 72% of those who took sustainable class would recommend the sustainable class to other students. 67% of faculty consider important to provide sustainable classes in curriculum. 86% have experience teaching classes that include sustainable components. 86% have not taught specific classes for sustainable design. 18% where interior design program provides specific classes for sustainable design. 91% received training on sustainability. Of the above, 55% received training from conferences. 92% of professionals believe that learning sustainable design principles in college is important. 65% believe that students' preparation on sustainable design in their professional entry positions is important. 72% received training on sustainable design from continuing educational workshop. Then faculty said that lecture and studio is the best teaching method for delivering sustainable design principles. The professionals added small group research and presentation is the best teaching method for delivering sustainable design principles. In regards to the relationship between learning and application of sustainability, learning and application did not demonstrate a strong relationship. However, there was a significant difference of the application of sustainability into students' project solution when they showed no differences of sustainability into students' daily lives. There were no correlations found among the three different groups in regards to psychological aspects of pro-environmental behavior. Storage altruism and new environmental paradigm were not affecting the three different groups. However, there was a difference between the three groups in personal norm. Personal norms indicate the concept that people should recycle because they feel that recycling is the right thing to do. Also, many studies show that personal norms, such as feeling of moral obligation, have an effect on pro-environmental behavior. There were no correlations among the three groups in regards to the social demographic variables. Finally, let's go over the discussion of findings. How much sustainable design principles are taught in design schools? 52 students have already taken a sustainable design class at school, mainly during their sophomore and junior years of the curriculum. More than 80% of faculty indicated that sustainable design principles are covered throughout the curriculum rather than from specific classes that are designed for sustainable design. Only 18% of faculty answered that their interior design program offers specific classes related to sustainable design principles. About 64% of faculty respondents thought that providing sustainable design class in the curriculum is very important. Yet, most schools did not offer specific classes for sustainable design. About 65% of professional respondents agree that students' preparation on sustainable design in their professional entry positions is important. So in conclusion, adoption of sustainable design classes are the beginning stage in many colleges. How much sustainable design principles are applied to project solution, daily lives, and water and energy conservation activities? Even though student respondents answer they know what sustainability is, their application of sustainability into water and energy conservation activities were not found to be significant. 16 out of 22 faculty members taught classes regarding sustainability, but their tendency to apply what they know of sustainable design into their project solution and daily lives were not significant. Even though 13 professionals were accredited by LEED, there were no significant difference between for those who attain LEED accreditation and for those who have not, in terms of professional respondents' application of sustainable design into their project solution, their daily lives, and water and energy conservation activities. So the gap between acquisition and application of sustainable principles needs a greater emphasis, not only to be applied to students, but also to faculty and professionals. Relationship between pro-environmental behavior and psychological aspects. There are no correlation between pro-environmental behaviors and knowledge, environmental attitude, social altruism, and new environmental paradigm. The three groups showed a similar motivation of pro-environmental behaviors such as recycling and water and energy conservation activities. There were positive relationships between awareness of consequences and all respondents' application of sustainability into their projects and daily lives. This means that if people are aware of their actions' consequences, such as air pollution produced from their cars, people are more likely to apply the concept of sustainability into their project solution and daily life. In conclusion, education for environmental issues in general is the catalyst that can change people's perception to adopt pro-environmental activities or live in basis of the concept of sustainability. However, knowledge on its own is not sufficient to carry out pro-environmental behaviors. Sustainability should take a leading role, or at the very least, a significant portion of interior design programs. Since sustainability is widely accepted as a topic that students need to educate it during their academic endeavor, developing and thus offering specific classes designed for the comprehension of sustainability principles is required. Faculty should not limit themselves to a specific method of delivery of sustainable design principles. On the contrary, sustainable design principles should be implemented in every indicated method of educational instruction while complying with program curricula. The limitation of this study were identified with the following. This research may not be generalized. The novelty of topic generated more questions. The focus group was composed of only local participants, and more qualitative insight is necessary. Finally, for further research, I recommend to compare results based on different geographical locations, compare the acquisition and adaptation of sustainability principles in different nations and cultures. Innovation in design needs attention and consideration in determining how this topic can be integrated into the interior design program. Relationship between social demographics on how sustainability is acquired and adopted. And finally, relationships between psychological aspects and pro-environmental behaviors. That is all I have for you all today. I appreciate your time. If you have any questions, please contact me via the email address provided on the screen. Thank you.